Good evening. Turn in your Bibles to Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3. We're going to be looking at this passage this evening as a Devo. You probably recognize those words if you can see it in that color, but if not, I'm sure the pew packers recognize the statue, that golden image that Nebuchadnezzar had erected and built in order for all the people, when they would hear the music, they were to bow down and worship that idol. In the story, if you read, we're not going to read through all of it, but in the story, we read that this is a huge statue. It is 90 feet tall. That would be about the size of an 8-story building. 8 stories. And it's made of gold. All gold. That's kind of hard to believe. You know, there was an ancient historian named Darius Sichilius, and he made mention of a statue of gold in the temple of Belus, which Xerxes had demolished. That one was only 40 feet high, and it contained 1,000 talents of gold. Now you may think, sometimes we forget to stop and define things when we talk about the talent, and you may think, and I hope you don't, because I'm probably part of the problem, because I always talk about the one talent man. Here's my coin. Well, a talent isn't a coin. It's a measurement of weight. So he wouldn't be holding up, here's my coin, the one talent man that from Jesus' parable, because that one talent was 75 pounds of gold. Because here's my one talent, that's how much weight. So one talent, someone says, here's 1 talent of gold, you're getting 75 pounds of gold. And so here you have, 1,000 talents for 40 feet high. And remember, this was 90 feet high. But the 40 feet high with 1,000 talents of gold, that's 75,000 pounds, 31.5 tons of gold, $2.4 billion in today's money. Could you imagine that? That's insane. Do you think maybe Nebuchadnezzar was a little arrogant, and he's just invested a lot of money in this statue, and he wants everyone to use it because he put a lot of money into it? And so here we have in our story, he's built this thing. He wants everyone to honor his God, to honor him. It was huge, and it was Nebuchadnezzar's idol. And then in chapter 3, verse 12, Nebuchadnezzar's advisors are talking to him there. And here's what they say. They say, "There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the administration of the province of Babylon, namely Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have disregarded you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and anger, gave orders to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then these men were brought before the king. Now he knows who they are. He knows that these are friends of Daniel, but he's enraged. He has spent $2.4 billion on this sucker, and they're going to bow down to it. So he brings them there, and he tells them, okay, I'm going to give you a chance to do this one more time. I'm going to play all the musical instruments, and when you hear it, bow down. Of course, we know the story. They play it, and they're not going to bow down. And so, verse 15, or that's where he tells them that in verse 15. In verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to give you an answer concerning this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. You know, this is what we may call a God moment. Here's a God moment, a time where I think God, you could say in a negative way, setting them up, but really he's testing them. And we see tests like this from God all throughout the Bible, where he puts you in a situation where you have to make a choice. Like Esther, right? Let's go back further. Abraham had been given a son. God had promised him, but then what happened? He was asked to make a choice concerning that son. Do what I say, or do what you want. David, just a young shepherd boy whose father had sent him with food to his brothers, and he saw the giant Goliath, and he was given a choice. You're going to join in with the way the Israelites were responding, or are you going to stand with God? And of course, now Esther, married to the evil, brutal king, she learned her people were in trouble. She could do something about it. Mordecai told her, you were put here for such a time as this. But if you don't, God will destroy you and yours, and he will raise up someone else. But in other words, you've been given a choice. And here they too, these three, have been given a choice. Now we know these Chaldeans, these advisors to the king, they hated Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they made it their goal to destroy them. Maybe they were jealous because of their success, and God was with them. They were smarter than these guys were. But there's no question they hated these fellas. And if they can't destroy them over this issue, they'll find some way to take them out. And faced with that hatred, I suspect these three men decided that if they were going to be burned anyway, they might as well be burned for the right reason. And that reason was the right reason. They chose God, no matter what. When they were in service, doing everything going well, and they had everything they could possibly want, and when things went bad, they did not change their mind. Now, how does that apply to us? It comes down to how we answer that question that Nebuchadnezzar asked of these three men in Daniel 3:15. When he tells them, if you're ready, at the moment you hear the sound of the horn, flute, lyre, trigon, psaltery, the bagpipe, and all kinds of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made very well. But if you do not worship, you will immediately be cast into the midst of a furnace of blazing fire. And what God is there who can deliver you out of my hands? That's the question. What God is there that can deliver you out of the hands of powerful men in this world? And we know how they answered. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us. And then the New American Standard says there in verse 18, but even if he does not, and you may notice those italics, meaning those words in the italics, those are not in the original Hebrew. You take those out, but if not. That's all it is. But if not, we're not going to bow the knee. Whether God saves us or we burn up in that fire, we know who is ultimately in charge. Have you ever, watched a football team of usually it's like little kids, and you see this, you have your team, and then there's the other team, and you look across and you see that other team are huge. They're all big kids. Every one of them probably have the max age, max weight, and then you look at your kids and they're like half the height, and all the kids are looking over there scared to even go out on the field, but they've got to play the game. And The first team goes running out, they're marching out, and then the next team runs out, but they're kind of moseying out there because they've already thought they have lost. And of course, they go out there, they do lose because they believe they've already lost. If you go into something, anything, and you believe you're going to lose, you're going to lose. If you don't believe God can do anything for you in your life, guess what? You've already lost. Satan is going to win. Here in Daniel 3:18, but if not, if God decides that He isn't going to save us today, even if He does not, let it be known to you, O king, we're not going to serve your gods. I've brought this up before, but I like this story. Have you ever watched the movie Dunkirk? Did you watch Dunkirk? We have it. Jenny told me that we've watched it, but I just don't remember watching it, and I wanted to find out if they actually put this in the movie. In that movie, you got those, 500,000 British troops. I know Tom would know. Tom knows all war stories. And they're stuck on that beach. And the Germans there's tanks, and they're using those planes, and they're just coming by and just picking them off one at a time, and they're dying. Germany had them at their mercies, and his armored division was 15 miles away. His planes were bombing and just zipping in there and picking them off. Several of the leaders in Britain discussed, trying to bribe or maybe cut a deal with Hitler. One of them said that this is the end of the British Empire. A member of the British government wrote his wife that they might be compelled to commit suicide. It was at that desperate moment that, Britain called on all the churches, because back then they had those in England. Doesn't seem like they have many going on now. And they called for a national day of prayer. And a lot of people came out. Newspapers, political leaders, King George the Sixth, all were joined in May the 26th. And they prayed. And the British people were anxiously waiting for word about the fate of these people, wanting to hear what's happening with all those soldiers on that beach. And they sent 3 words. But if not. That's what they sent. And everyone knew exactly what they meant. They recognized the message, that reference to this story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Our God is able to save us, but if not, we will remain faithful to Him anyway. And the order was issued to attempt that desperate evacuation of Dunkirk, whatever boat they could get, to send it across those hazardous waters over there where the the German planes were there. The armored division was not that far away. But then, over those 9 days of rescue, Hitler orders his troops to halt because he wanted to give his Air Force time to do more bombing on all those troops. But the air power was hampered by an extremely unfavorable weather in the skies. A fog was settling in on certain parts, and the normally treacherous waters became a little calmer, and they rescued 336,000 people off that beach of the 500,000. They were pretty much written off as dead, but they saved them. And I believe God had a hand in that. He is able to do that. And there's one more part of the story in Daniel that we need to remember. I kind of visualize Nebuchadnezzar sitting there on the throne. He was angry, he was enraged, but he's very smug as he had those 3 thrown into the furnace. I could see him just sitting back, and I'm going to watch these guys burn. And he looks and he watches. He sees his men die. He threw them in there, so he knows the extreme heat of that furnace. And he stands up and he says, I thought we threw in 3. And there were 4. They weren't sitting or lying down as you would expect someone who's just got thrown into a furnace, in pain. No, they're in there walking around. Could you imagine what that must have looked like, the thoughts going on in their mind as they are witnessing this amazing miracle? Not 3, but 4 are walking around. When we're faced with our own fiery trial, do we believe God will be there for us? Abraham did. David did. Esther did. Meshach and Abednego, they believed. God makes this promise repeatedly all throughout the Bible. It is the Lord, Deuteronomy 31:8. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. And I believe the same thing. I'll get through it. But if not, I go home. Paul to the Philippians, whether I live or die, I'm good with either. I'd rather go home, he says, staying really, but being here will be fruitful for you. And that's the blessing that we know, that no matter what happens, God's on our side. Amen. And it's a promise we can rely on. But the promise is only ours if we are His children. That childlike mentality of looking and trusting in Him as a child would their father. I love that story. And I find comfort in that story. It's one of the things I look to at difficult times. And it just gives me comfort. It gives me courage and strength. And I think it does for you as well. And so, even though it is a childhood, Sunday school story, we sometimes think, well, I'm an adult, I don't need those Sunday school stories. But I find comfort in that story. And it helps me keep on keeping on for the Lord. And that's the devotional I want to leave with us this evening. Hey, so I know in the bulletin I said we'll start Jeremiah tonight. Well, I'm not quite ready. So I need another week. I do think that it would behoove you to read through chapter 1 several times. That's going to be the main focus. And that's really kind of like the introduction that Jeremiah gives himself. And in chapter 2, you see this natural division start to begin to happen there. So I really think chapter 1 is written almost like an introduction of all the things he's going to be hitting on. So look over that. We'll start that, Lord willing, next Sunday night. Open your Bibles tonight, if you would, to Matthew chapter 20. Matthew chapter 20. I want us to read verses 20 to 28. New American Standard has a title on this section as Preferment Asked for Me. Anyone got a different title? Chapter 20, verses 20 to 28. What do you got?
Mother's Request.
Mother's Request.
Jesus teaches about serving others.
Yeah, I like that. Jesus teaches about serving others. Wake up. Have you ever seen those Bibles where they have like a little line there where you can write in your own title? Maybe it's usually for just the chapters, or sometimes they have them there for this. If I were to title this, I would title it Greatness. I would call it Greatness. Here's why. Let's read it. I think you'll see it. Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came to Jesus with her sons, bowing down and making a request of him. And he said to her, "What do you wish?" She said to him, "Command that in your kingdom these 2 sons of mine may sit one on your right and one on your left." Now, let's stop there. Why does she want that for her boys? Why? In the kingdom of Jesus, is she thinking spiritual kingdom or physical kingdom? Physical.
Physical.
Yeah, physical kingdom. So if he's going to be a literal king on earth, do you think you'd be in a powerful position on the left and right hand of the king of the world? Yeah, so she's looking for greatness for her kids. Is it wrong for a mom to want that for her kids? Not at all. No mom goes somewhere, can my kid be the janitor in your school building or something like that? No, they want their kids to succeed. That's what they want. And so she's asking Jesus, let them sit on your right and on your left. Verse 22, but Jesus answered, you do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink? So I don't know if that first part was directed at the two sons or at her. I'm thinking maybe that first part was directed at the mom, and then he turned and he asked the two, are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink? And they said to him, we are able. Now who are these two sons of Zebedee?
James and John.
Yeah, James and John. And what did Jesus call them?
Sons of thunder.
Sons of thunder. Why? Why do you call them sons of thunder?
They were loud.
They were loud.
And rambunctious.
Rambunctious.
Passionate. Or passionate.
Huh?
Passionate.
That's right. Passionate. Okay, they were part of the inner circle of Jesus, right? Also. Who else was part of that inner circle? Peter. So when he took them to the Mount Transfiguration, they were in the Garden of Gethsemane with them. They were there when Jesus raised the daughter of Jairus. They were there for that. So there was this relationship, special relationship there. And he asked them, are you able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink? So what's that cup? We know what that is, right? What cup was Jesus about to drink?
Death.
Death. And so they answered, yes, sir. What cup were they talking about? Huh?
King's cup.
Yeah, kingdom on earth, what?
King's cup.
A king's cup. Well, yeah, we know it's hard work being a king. It's hard work being a servant. I mean, there's a lot of work to that. And it can be stressful, right? I'm pretty sure that's what they're thinking. But that's why he started that first part. You don't know what you're asking for. So they said, we are able. Verse 23. So Jesus said to them, my cup you shall drink. Now, how do you think they may have thought about that? My cup you will drink. Will they get the drink from the king's cup? Not what they're thinking. Not what they're thinking. But to sit on my right and on my left, this is not mine to give, but it is for those whom it has been prepared by my Father. Okay. Before we examine that, we've noticed two attitudes here so far. And they're not attitudes from Jesus, but from others. What two attitudes in this section we've read up to so far, what two attitudes have you noticed exhibited here? What would you say they are?
Well, the mom was pretty bold.
Get pretty bold, ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah, an ambitious attitude of mom. What mom isn't, but definitely ambitious.
And I'd say the sons are a little naive at this point.
Okay. Naive on the son's part, that would be true. Naive on the mom's part as well.
I'd say somewhat arrogant.
Arrogant.
Mother's part that my two boys are better than anybody else.
Well, maybe she was thinking that, or she thought, I want to get there before anyone else. First in, right? I get the first up.
Opportunistic.
Opportunistic. Yeah, opportunistic. And but arrogant. I would definitely say on the boys. Are you able to drink the cup I drink? You better believe it. Little up on their tiptoes. So yeah, we definitely see these things occurring there. And then Jesus tells them, "Oh, yep, congratulations, you will drink my cup. They don't understand that, but they will. But to sit on my right and on my left, this is not mine to give, but is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father. Okay. Now we already said we know that Jesus is thinking of different things than they are. So when he says, sitting on my left and on my right, what is he talking about? What is Jesus talking about? Okay, in heaven. Now that's interesting. Where is Jesus sitting?
Right hand.
Right hand of God. And apparently, somebody whom is not named will be assigned the left and right of Jesus. Would any of you like to have that position? I'm going to be honest with you. Yes. Are you kidding? Absolutely. Do I understand or know what that entails? I will learn it as I go. But I know what heaven is, and I know if I got to sit on his right or left, that would be amazing. Somebody is going to get that. What does that tell you? Does that give us any kind of insight on heaven?
There's going to be some structure.
Structure. Yeah, there's going to be some levels there.
Hierarchy. Yeah.
Yeah. Boy. I always wonder about that. And he doesn't name them. I mean, there's no way you could. Because that would create arrogance. That would create envy and strife. And well, maybe we would lift those people up, whoever they end up being, too high. Whoever they are. You know, I remember when I was in school wondering about that, my first thought was, maybe Paul. Somebody like that. I don't know. But that always amazes me that there is somebody assigned to be given that spot. So, any other thoughts on that before we go to the next verse?
Maybe somebody that we know nothing about.
Maybe they haven't even been born yet.
Yeah.
Somebody so humble, yet done so much, and no recognition for all they've done. Greatness. That's greatness. And hearing this, verse 24, and hearing this, the 10 became indignant with the 2 brothers. Oh man, another attitude has revealed itself. So what attitude is indignant? Jealousy.
Anger.
Okay. Anger. What you said, anger? I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear.
They're mad.
Yeah, they're mad. Yeah. Annoyed. Maybe annoyed that they didn't think of it first. Or where was their mom? Right? And so they got some issues here. So it appears, overcome with jealousy, as somebody said. Of course, that leads to resentment of the 2. Can people feel wronged somehow because of the successes of others? Well, if I had the opportunities they had, I'd be successful too. If I had a mom like that, I'd have an opportunity for that too. Right? And resentment can build to the point that it must be expressed, and often, maybe a verbal barrage, whatever it might be, doesn't deserve it. But all this is going on here, and of course, Jesus sees what's happening. He takes advantage, and addresses this desire that the mother has, the desire these 2 sons of hers has, James and John, and the 10, the desire for greatness. And he's going to deal with this desire for greatness in verses 25 to 28. But Jesus called them to himself and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. It is not this way among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. So here, clearly Jesus is speaking about being great. And there's, being great, and then there's being great. As we typically say, there's two ways of looking at this. The world perceives it, and there's a way the Lord perceives it. The desire to become great here is not condemned by Jesus in any way that we see. In fact, he implies that it is possible to achieve greatness in his kingdom. There is going to be somebody on his left and somebody on his right. There will be. And I agree with Larry. We don't know. We may never know. We'll never know who these people are, but whoever they are going to be some humble folks. They're going to be pretty humble servants. That's who they're going to be. So the thrust of Jesus' message is in clarifying this true meaning of greatness. I should have looked out for, I can't remember where it was. Something was going on. Oh, it was after the Lord's Supper, and they were going along, and they began to discuss who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom. You know where they may have gotten that idea? Somebody's going to be on the left and right. James, John, we know it ain't you. It might be one of us. That's what they're probably thinking. Wouldn't we do that? We would. Well, we know who it ain't, at least. So there's two down. And that's what they're probably going on about. And so that this is going to be an ongoing issue for them as they're growing and trying to understand. The way to greatness is not the customary way we see it in the world. So he brings up the rulers of the Gentiles. They lord it over them. They're great men, exercise. We're not to be like the nations who define greatness. So in our country's history, name for me great men or women.
George Washington.
George Washington. He's a great man. Why do we call him great?
Father of our country.
Founder of the country, general, helped defeat the British. He had a lot of things done. First president, he did great things. He did great things. Wasn't part of any party. We like that.
Prayed constantly.
He prayed constantly. Do you remember when I gave that story about him being baptized? Remember that? This is kind of an excursus off topic. I did a lot of there's a written record where it looked like he discovered baptism and asked somebody to baptize him. I need to go look that up. Maybe we'll do that on a Sunday night too and go over that again. But that happened. It could be. We get there and we'll see George Washington. Maybe he's on the left and right. I don't know. But yeah, he was baptized for the remission of sins. Anyway, okay, other men or women. Great. Thomas Jefferson.
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln, yeah. Did I hear another one? Wow, we don't have too many great folks.
What about worldwide?
Okay, give me worldwide.
Oh, I haven't thought of one.
Oh.
But I was thinking maybe.
Eisenhower.
Eisenhower, yeah. I caught you off guard. Come on,
Maybe Franklin Roosevelt
Franklin D. Roosevelt.
for what he actually accomplished.
Winston Churchill.
Hmm?
Winston
Churchill. Oh yeah, he was a tough guy. He was the right guy at the right time. But yeah, when you look through our history books, great people, men and women, it's always because they did great things. That person really went above and beyond. They did a lot.
Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great, there you go. Because what did he do? Conquered the known world. Man, that guy, and he was in his 30s. Trained tutored by Aristotle. That tells you something. So yeah, that's the way the world sees and views greatness.
There's a difference between greatness and humbleness. They are not necessarily opposite. But there are a lot of people in this world that achieve great things and were very egotistical. How great I am, I accomplished this, so on and so forth. And for me, yeah, there's a lot of presidents that I admire because they accomplished a lot. But the ones that, that have been, brought forth here this evening are the ones that I think are truly great, because not only did they accomplish great things, they never forgot their humility, their devotion to God. They did not say, how great I am. It's like, I did great things because I was given the opportunity, or I was following this path. And they give credit to other people, not to themselves.
That's exactly where I'm going next. We were going to look at in the Old Testament. Would you say David was great? He did great things, right? Would you say that Joseph was great? He did great things. And I said Moses, right? Yeah, just said it. And so you have a lot of great people who were given opportunities, and when they did it because it was the right thing to do. And even though I had to really force you to give me names that were people of greatness but not really great people, most of the ones we mentioned were people that go in line with our way of thinking. And I didn't want to build that foundation and then ask you the question. I wanted you to see that that is a sign in your minds that your idea of greatness falls in line with the way and thinking of God. So when you are looking for greatness, people who did great things, not because they wanted to be great, but because it was the right thing to do. And they were the person at that time and had opportunity, and they took it. Not for greatness, it was the right thing to do. And we don't come across too many people like that in history. And so we struggled to name great people. And that's commendable. And so here we are. The Gentiles lorded, don't be like the Gentiles who lorded over them. Don't be that way. But verses 26 and 27, whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. So greatness, according to God, is achieved by service to others. Man, that was George Washington. He did not want to be president. Didn't want it. But he did it. He hated it. But he did it because he knew the country needed that. And I appreciate him doing that.
Moses would be a
man,
really good example.
most humble man in all the land.
And all he did for those people, and they turned around
And
and stabbed
even
him back.
argued with God to save them. That is the guy I want. That's great. And that's why God's going to raise a prophet like me. Because he knew. Well, that guy knew. Great man. Great man. And then in verse 28, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. So that was his mission. There is a need here, and I'm going to meet it. If his followers would see themselves as servants and their mission as serving others, then much more would be accomplished for the kingdom. But if we're more concerned with how people treat us and how we are recognized for it, that's not going to work. So there's a cost, isn't there? There is a mysterious kind of initiation into the inner circle of greatness. And it involves drinking the sacred cup. What's the initiation? Baptism. What does that signify for us?
died to self.
We die to self. That's the cup. They're going to drink it. We will too, or we did. We should. And we pick up that cup daily. And we drink it. And Jesus was drinking it. It is a symbol of suffering. Other apostles, if thirsty for it, drank from that cup. What Paul did, once he realized what was going on, he picked up that cup and he drank it. Linsky writes, "The way to greatness lies along the path of suffering." Why would he say it lies along the path of suffering? What is he thinking? Suffering like physical pain? Could be. Or could you?
It's a difficult journey. It may not be just physical pain, it's the trials that you have to go through to get there.
The choices you've got to make. When those choices come up, and they come up a lot, what are you going to pick? Esther, you're in a comfortable position. You're going to have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position to do the right thing. Abraham, that's going to be some difficult choices you're going to have to make there, Abraham. Moses, difficult choices. Yeah, you look like a fool, Moses, back in Egypt. I'm going to send you back. Oh, I can't talk. Right? Didn't he try to get out of it?
Yeah.
He didn't want to go back. He looked like a fool last time he was there. It didn't go well. He went back. And he stuck it out. He stuck with it. And so many other great men and women throughout the ages. So, what is he really calling upon his disciples to do here in this passage?
Humble themselves, become more servant-minded.
Yeah. Humble yourself, be more servant. Change. And you need to change. And he laid it out pretty simply for them. You gotta go stand in last place if you want to be great in my kingdom. Last place. What do you mean? Can you think of some other illustrations and parables that Jesus gave to explain this to them, to help them understand? What are some other ones that he gave? Can you remember them?
Wash the feet.
Oh yeah, boy, that was a great example. In that situation, it was customary that someone, usually the least in their culture, would wash the dirty feet of everybody, and no one done it. And then Jesus does. There's last. They weren't learning the lesson. What else? You remember any others? What about the children? Remember they were arguing about who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom, and then he brought a child? Unless you enter the kingdom like a child. What do you mean? Humble yourself. Humble yourself. And they struggled with it. And they will continue all the way until the day of Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit reminds them of all the things that Jesus taught, and then they got it. So yeah, that's a struggle. That is hard. Difficult. But that's something I think we need to always remind ourselves of. Pick up that cross daily. Pick up your cup. Drink it. A cup of humility. And be last. And we will be doing well.